If you're over 40 and you want to become strong, pain-free, lean, and change your life, and you maybe have already discovered the kettlebell, this video is perfect for you because I'm going to show you the perfect plan that is made for beginners. Timestamps of the video are in the description. We're going to cover a lot of things, so I want you to jump into a particular segment that interests you the most. You can also use this video, save it as a reference once you move to the next level with your kettlebell journey. What I'm showing you in this video is the bird's eye perspective. If you want to take it deeper and you want to find the ultimate game plan to become strong, lean, and pain-free without going to the gym, then you have to sign up for my live webinar, where I'm taking everything that I'm teaching you right now here into a 90-minute masterclass where we take it to the next level. This is only for people who are serious about changing their life. This is what my live free webinar is for. So if you want to sign up right now, you'll find the link in the description. Grüezi Gregory von Lebe here. Let's waste no time and jump right into part number 1. The kettlebell is the king of GPP. GPP stands for General Physical Preparedness. This is what an athlete requires before they want to specialize. And GPP involves endurance, strength, explosiveness, speed, mobility, flexibility, coordination. And the kettlebell is the tide that lifts all boats of these physical qualities. This is what makes the kettlebell so powerful, because this means you can increase and improve your workout density, which means you can pack a lot of punch into not much or even less time. We can get more work done in the same or shorter amount of time than we usually spend at a gym or doing other things. This is why the kettlebell is such a time-efficient and powerful tool. Everything's taken care of. We can build muscle, we can improve our strength levels, we can improve our mobility, our flexibility, we can work on our coordination. By the way, we also have to, because the kettlebell requires skills that we have to learn, so our brains are engaged. We can increase the fat burning potential because we can burn calories like crazy with kettlebell training. We can improve our endurance, our strength endurance. You have one tool that is your whole gym. You don't have to do strength first and then treadmill after. No, you can combine everything all at once. And it is minimalist. We don't have to do 20, 30, 40, 50 exercises. Matter of fact, we teach the Big 10 kettlebell exercises that give you the most bang for your buck. And it's awesome for our mental health. It's like a valve. It's something that you can use to get your mind off something else. Because sometimes when we train, our minds are still stuck with our daily life. Not so with the kettlebell, because when your brain is required to learn a new skill, you have to focus your energy demands of your brain towards that new skill, which is awesome to just make sure that we can check out and focus on our bodies and train and then become lean, strong, and pain-free in the process. In part number 2, we're going to focus on a couple of tools that you need in order to make the most out of your kettlebell training. Number 1, of course, is the kettlebell. I recommend the Pro Kettlebell. It has a special hollow core, which makes it ergonomic. The handle is awesome, has this texture around it, which improves the gripability. Then you have these arm pockets that hug your forearms so you don't hurt your arms as you clean and snatch and press it. It's a little bit smaller than a standard competition kettlebell, which improves its flow feeling. It is the Rolls Royce, the Ferrari of kettlebells. And if you want to get one, you can buy one of these with a 10% discount with the link in my description. The second tool that you need is good shoes. You can also train barefoot as well, but I like these minimalist shoes. These are our own production line, and what they have is they're so ultimately thin that you can crunch them together in this little ball of fabric, and they have these rubber soles, which improves your stability when you swing and snatch these weights. And the most important thing about these shoes is you almost have no mediator between your foot and the floor. That's why barefoot training also is so powerful. When we train strength exercises, we cannot use those big foamy shoes that warp your perception, the proprioception of your body towards the floor and the surrounding area, because then you cannot properly express your strength. So it's either a minimalist shoe or you go barefoot. And the strength is best expressed right here at this point. This is like the middle of the foot towards the heel, because your foot is like a tripod. Big toe, small toe, heel. This is what your foot is like, and you express the most strength right here, which means when you learn how to jerk, clean, swing, and deadlift the kettlebell with the Big 10 exercises that I explained to you or that I touched on in the beginning, then you always want to make sure you push from the middle of your feet towards the heels, and this requires proper footwear. The next important tool that you need is good flooring. This is 1 square meter of a 2 centimeter thick flooring pattern. And it is built out of this strong rubber that you can drop down on the floor, and then when you have 2 or 3 or 4 of these together, they're very solid and they don't shift around. Now, of course, if you do very crazy ballistic movements with heavy bells, they might shift around, so it makes sense to maybe stabilize them. But this type of flooring is required. If you have flooring that is sensitive, you always want to make sure that you're able to drop the kettlebell in a controlled manner, but also in a loose manner. What does this mean? If you have flooring where you always have to be very careful, we're swinging, cleaning, and now after a long set, we want to drop the kettlebell, I want to do this. This is a controlled drop. There's nothing worse than if you're ready or if you finish your set, and then you always have to be very careful because you don't want to destroy your floor. So make sure you have proper flooring when you decide to build a solid kettlebell mini home gym. The next thing that you need is this wooden stick. This thing is going to change your life. Before we even start moving and training with kettlebells, we have to move well before we can move often and under load. And in order to move well, there's a couple of exercises that I'm going to show you with this stick that will change the way your body moves, because there's a lot of breaks that we have to identify, and then we have to loosen them up, and we're going to touch on this a little bit later in the video. You can get one of these wooden sticks. This one is approximately 5 feet tall or 170 centimeters. You can get this thing at your Home Depot. Finally, you need a good hand care kit that can take care of your blisters or your ripped open palm skin when you do lots of cleans, swings, and snatches. Now, this is not something that you have to live with. The better your technique is, the less your hands will turn into hamburger meat, but it might happen in the beginning. Also, it is important to always file down your calluses, because calluses on your palm skin will build, and then we have to file them down to make sure we don't have those little sticky molehills that make kettlebell training really a hassle. And what we also have here is a little bit of beeswax as your first aid kit, and then aloe vera to make sure we take care of our hands. A little bit more in the future then might be chalk. This can be powder chalk or liquid chalk. Both make a mess, so it doesn't really matter. So make sure you have a spot or a place that can get a little bit messy. Of course, you don't have to exaggerate it. So what chalk does is it increases the friction that the kettlebell has. And if you don't have the technique, this means you're going to completely destroy your palm skin if you don't apply the proper knowledge to really move these kettlebells well, especially the heavier weights. So don't use chalk if you're not yet used to good technique. However, we have experienced that certain clients have such sweaty hands that they always have to grab chalk no matter what. If that is the case, be careful and learn good technique as fast as possible. In part number 3, we're going to take a look at the assessment. The assessment is to find out whether your body has lots of breaks attached to it. And this might be an issue right from the get-go. You have to imagine if you have lots of breaks on your muscles that hold them back, that's like driving on a street with a lot of holes in it. You're able to drive on it, but it's a very bumpy ride. So loosening up the brakes requires that we do some proper mobility exercises. So this is the first exercise that we do. It's called the hinge. You connect this wooden stick to your hip, your upper back, and your neck. And now you learn the hinge, pushing the hips back, holding that position in a 90-degree angle, stand up, exhale. Pushing the hips back, standing up, exhale, crushing grapes beneath my feet. And this movement alone will change your life. We can also include it in your regular routine on a regular basis or on a day-to-day basis. Exercise number 2 that we have to learn is loosening up the shoulder blades. So I grab the stick like this at a shoulder width angle. I touch it on my thighs, depending on how long my arms are. It might be a little bit deeper, a little bit higher, doesn't matter. And now I pull that stick up. And as I'm pulling it up, I want to reach the middle of my head, and now I want to pull it back as far as I can to see, is it possible? How far can I go? Do my elbows start bending, or am I able to keep them fully extended? The idea is to always keep your arms fully extended no matter what, and stop when the limitation hits a roadblock where you're not able to move any further. The second movement that we're going to do with the stick is circling the stick around the head. So I grab it at a very wide stance. I only grab it with my index finger and my thumb, and I keep it very loose, and now I slide that wooden stick around my body. It's like I want to put on a jacket. And this circling creates synovial fluids. Now I'm trying the other side, and loosens up the brakes on the shoulders. And I want to make sure that I'm able to touch my stomach as well as my lower back, always keeping the elbow extended. And the final part of the assessment is a bodyweight squat. Learning how to squat is crucial. There's 4 cues that you have to watch out for when you learn a bodyweight squat. That is, we have a shoulder width stance. Now here they go. Q1, chest up. Q2, hips back. Q3, knees out. Q4, squat down. And now if you have to, you can either keep your arms extended or keep them close to the body and stand up. Always make sure you have this proud posture, sit down and stand back up. Depending on your hip structure, you might be able to squat down as deep like I am. Then you have a Slavic hip, as they say. And if you're only able to squat deep into a 90-degree angle and you come back up because you feel you're limited, then you might have a Celtic hip. Both are fine. Just find out what type of hip you have. To finalize the assessment, we can put everything together that we have learned. We can grab the stick in a shoulder width stance, bring them over our head, go into a wider than shoulder width stance, chest up, hips back, knees out, squat down. And this is the overhead squat. And the overhead squat demonstrates how well my upper body and my lower body communicate with each other. If you're still having trouble with that type of exercise, you're falling forward, elbows are not fully straight, you're not able to squat deep or as deep as your hips allow you to, you're weak in that area, then work on this assessment until you have built up a proper foundation. Part number 4 is the warm-up. Now, depending on your level of fitness and how many breaks you have on your muscles, it might make sense to include these assessment moves with the wooden stick all throughout the day, all throughout your warm-up when you get ready to train. But the warm-up in and all by itself that I'm going to show you right now requires your body weight only. In the webinar, by the way, I'm going to show you a follow-along variation that you can use that is in our program that can help you do this follow-along or this warm-up process step by step with me teaching it to you from the get-go. We're now going to take a look at the bird's eye perspective of the warm-up. What we're going to do is we're going to work from the top down, and we work with mobility first to create some synovial fluids. Synovial fluids are fluids that the joints need as nourishment and as nutrition to make sure the cartilage is always productive and ready. So when we start with the neck, the first thing that we do is we start rotating. We start pushing the neck forward and back. We look up to the ceiling and down, and we go side to side. And the reason why we do this is these are movements that we don't do in our everyday life. And if we don't use these muscles around the neck area, it gets harder and harder to control them. Now, when we've done this, we move from the neck down into the shoulder, and then we start these shoulder rolls forward and backward. And here it is important that we don't lift the elbows up. We want to lift the shoulder blades up as far as we can. Then we include the arms, so we still are in the upper body shoulder area. And when I roll these arms or do these arm rolls, I want to make sure that my elbows are fully extended. And of course, I'm taking both sides. When I'm done with this, I move into the T-spine area. And the T-spine is a proud chest and a humble chest. So stick your chest out, stick your chest in, open up your arms and close them. And now what we also engage in this warm-up movement is proper breathing. When you open up, you inhale through the nose. When you close, you exhale through the mouth. Then the next exercise that we move into is the torso. Now I keep both of my arms extended at my sides, and now I start rotating. And when I start rotating, I want to make sure that I don't have a big radius at first. I want to give some time for my body to get used to this movement, and then I can increase the range of motion while making sure that I keep my stability as upright as possible. Once I'm done here, I move into the lats, the big back muscles, where I want to stretch them in a way so I can get a good stretch in that area. And I'm also working my hips a little bit, prepping and priming them for the next movement that is about to come, and that is hip circles, where I imagine I have this big stance in a huge barrel. I hold my hips, and now I start circling the hips. I do it in one direction and then of course the other direction. And once I've done this, I'm now down from the hips into one of the most important movement patterns that you are learning with the stick that I showed you in the beginning, and that is the hinge. And with the hinge movement, we want to make sure that we learn this 90-degree angle, keeping a flat back, the exercise that we've done with the stick to loosen up those brakes right here in that area. If you do it the right way and you've never done it before, you're gonna feel your hamstrings almost explode. Then we wanna get into stability. So what I want to make sure is that I keep and center my head alongside the left foot, right in the middle of it. And now I have control, I'm stable, I'm shifting my whole body weight to the left side, and then I'm starting circling the right leg. Heels down, toes up, knees extended. Then of course, I do this whole thing on the other side. And I want to make sure I keep my balance as controlled as possible, because a loss of balance is a loss of control. And now I go into a sumo stance, and now I want to bend my spine, completely relax it. If I'm able to, I want to grab between my legs behind me. Then I stand up and do the opposite side, a hyperextension, looking as far back as I can and coming back. And then almost the final part of the warm-up is a side-to-side squat. And with the side-to-side squat, we do a couple of things. We bend the knees, the ankles, and we stretch the opposite legs. It's one of those powerful movements that I always include in my warm-up because it comes from the OGs of weightlifting from the Soviet days. Then, after the side-to-side squat, I can lay on my back and then do some exercises for my hips, pushing the hips up, building up that tension so I can feel that connection with my glutes from both sides. And then one of my favorite moves, that I can stretch my whole body from the left as well as to the right side. This is a powerful move that opens up your whole side, and then we are ready. And this is the mobility warm-up, and then I can decide if I'm a little bit further down the road of understanding proper kettlebell movements, and now before I get ready to train, I can say, you know what, let's do 100 swings. And I only do 100 swings when I'm already there. I've built the capacity, I'm a little bit more advanced, and I understand this exercise. If I don't understand it yet, I can warm up my heart rate with just some easy slow jogging, some flutter kicks, some high knees, and then some butt kicks to make sure my heart is elevated, my heart rate is elevated, the body temperature is rising, and then I'm ready to train. Getting ready to train means we have to understand what type of exercises we can do with the kettlebell. The exercises that we do with our clients and people from all around the world are the Big 10. I think there's 10 powerful kettlebell exercises that you can do throughout the whole year with some minor variations, of course, to spice it up once in a while. But these big 10 exercises give you everything that you need. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that in the webinar, I'm going to show you a full, complete system and program that you can use to learn everything that I've showed you until now, and even in the remaining part of this video, such as the Big 10 exercises, in a clear, detailed, and slow-mo fashion. Now let's go through these 10 exercises real quick. Exercise number 1 is the deadlift. This is one of the best exercises to learn how to pick up stuff up from the floor, and it trains the hips. Exercise number 2 is the row, a pulling exercise where I want to keep the kettlebell close to the body, staying in a hinged position and isometrically training my hips as well as my lower back. Exercise number 3 is the lunge. The lunge is a powerful exercise that I call a driving exercise. It's part of the squat family where I want to take a big step back, get that stretch, and explode back up. And then we have the goblet squat, where I can sit down into the bottom of the squat, stand back up, and if there's one exercise that you should learn right away, it is the squat. Squatting is something that we do on a regular basis almost every day. Exercise number 5 is the press. It is either with 2 hands as a beginner, or when you become a little bit more advanced and a professional, you press the kettlebell with 1 arm. And the single hand press is by far one of the best strengthening exercises that you can do. In the press family, we can also use a little bit of momentum with a push press or a jerk. And the jerk is the exercise that comes at the end, which I'm going to touch on just a little bit. Then we have the swing. And in the swing family, we have a hand-to-hand swing, a pendulum swing, and a 2-hand swing. But to make it very easy for you, I want to show you the regular basic swing that many people do, and that is the regular 2-hand swing with a deadlift style. And this is kind of like an explosive deadlift, and the focus is here that we are engaging into this hinge mechanic. I want to brush a little bit or touch a little bit on the pendulum mechanic. The pendulum mechanic compared to the deadlift mechanic requires a little bit knee involvement and this crushing of grapes that you have to use once you use ballistic exercises, where you feel like you're crushing grapes or nuts between or beneath your feet. And a pendulum swing looks like this. You see a little bit more efficient movement pattern. It's like a little bit more ballet. There's more art in this than this explosive type of deadlift style fashion swing. All of these swing variants are powerful and awesome. Then we move into the clean, and the clean is where a lot of people have issues cleaning the kettlebell into the rack position, which we have to learn, because if we want to press properly, we have to understand the rack position. So cleaning is swing the kettlebell between the legs up on the hip area and keeping it close to the body. And from the clean, we now move into the snatch. And you have to understand the relationship between the swing, the clean, and the snatch. The swing, which starts like this, is the start of the ballistic family. The clean is the bigger brother of the swing. And now the snatch is the big brother of the clean. One of the most powerful exercises that you can do for conditioning. Then I already touched on it, the jerk. The jerk requires an explosive element from the legs and then dropping under the weight, catch it overhead and rack it. And then almost finished is the windmill. We press the bell overhead and then we rotate our body around the bell and come back. That's one of those exercises where we do rotation. In most cases, we want to resist rotation for anti-rotation. But the windmill is the one exercise that opens up your body from a whole different level and engages it into a plane of motion that we rarely find ourselves in. That's why it's a powerful exercise. And then finally, we have carry exercises as a bonus. And here, for example, with the suitcase carry, this is exactly what happens with rotation. We become better at rotating by resisting it, because the human body is meant to stand upright. We walk upright, we're bipedal beings. So if I do this exercise, my opposite side has to work hard. And there's a little muscle that's called the QL muscle, the quadratus lumborum. It connects from the spine down to your hip. And if we make this muscle strong, we have a great remedy against back pain. And now, after we've practiced the big 10 exercises, after we've moved through the skill blocks, we can finally jump into a workout. And the workout that I'm going to show you right now is one of those best workouts that we show beginners once they get started. In the webinar that I have for you that you can join live right now, this is where I explain to you this powerful exercise a little bit more in detail, or this workout. But now let's show you the bird's eye perspective. Programming a workout requires for you to understand the movement patterns, and there are 7 of them. The push, pull, hinge, squat, rotation, anti-rotation, and carry. And I would even add an 8th one, and that is just posture. Because posture alone is important. And many of us have this slouched in posture that we have to change. We can do this with the wooden stick that I've showed you in the beginning. And now, a good program always involves lots of these movement patterns combined. And that's why we always do for beginners 4 exercises. Exercise 1, the deadlift, 10 reps. Exercise 2, goblet squat for 10 reps. Exercise 3, the press, either with 2 hands or 1 hand for 10 reps. And finally, the swing, either 1 hand, 2 hand, or hand to hand for 10 reps. And I have a little workout right here that you can check out and do it in the follow along format. But again, if you want to take it to the next level, it might make sense to join my live webinar. So what comes after the initial stages of being a beginner? Well, it's called advanced, or being even a professional. And then it makes sense to periodize your workouts for GPP. And periodization simply means that we focus on certain motor abilities or physical qualities a little bit more, while others are focused on a little bit less. And yes, I've said that the kettlebell is the tide that lifts all boats of motor abilities, but certain abilities are diametrically opposed to each other once we amp up the intensity, for example, endurance and strength. And yes, with strength and endurance, we can match them and bring them a little bit closer together, but it makes sense to touch on one or the other in different stages of training. And one stage of training in my current practice looks like this. In winter, I go heavy indoors with double bells. In spring, I reduce the weights, go a little bit more moderate, which means not that heavy, single bells included as well. In summer, I go outdoor, I improve or increase my locomotion activities, running, rowing, and then lighter bells and almost one-arm exercises only. Then comes autumn, and in autumn, I go back into moderate, double bells come back in, heavy weights, or weights get a little bit heavier, and then comes winter again, where I focus on heavy weights. And this is a periodization principle. And it also makes sense to sometimes take a complete week off. For example, when you are preparing for a competition, you are building yourself up to day X, then you have a taper effect where a few weeks before the session, you don't want to train or reduce your training volume, then you have competition, and then you take a break. So your annual training plan might make sense to include some rest weeks where you don't do anything and enjoy life. And that might be vacation. When you go on vacation, you don't have to think about training at all. Just focus on chilling and spending time with your loved ones. And once you come back, you jump back into your periodized training. Here's the next thing that you have to do. Clean and press that like and subscribe button. Share with a friend who's also interested in kettlebells. And if you made it this far, check out my free live webinar where you can ask me questions afterwards. You find the link in the description. Listen, if you're looking for a system that takes you from a beginner to the next level, and you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, and you say, Gregory, I want more of this. I want to go deeper. I want to jump down into the rabbit hole of kettlebell training, then you have to join my live webinar. This is where I show you the most powerful strategies. This is the bird's eye perspective, but in the webinar, I take you into deep waters. And the best thing about it, it's 100% free, and you can sign up right now in the first link in the description.